Good evening, Ma'ariv Rabbi Isai. Another week of Kedusha Shabbos. For those of you joining us the first time, the Shiurim have been put together by the Machon Alei Zayis, and the Shiurim are here to advance Kedushas Shabbos. When a person keeps Shabbos, and a person wants to have a tam in Shabbos Kodesh, wants to have a good taste about Shabbos, the only way to have a good taste in Shabbos is to know the tam, the reason for why we do things. To go through and do things, everybody, kulam kedoshim, kulam ahuvim, kulam berurim, people, mahal Shabbos, we keep Shabbos. Oh, but when a person does something and he doesn't know why he's doing it, hotnish kan anung, what does it look like? Like chulent with no tam. But if a person puts in some salt and some pepper and some honey and some andere Sachen, and a person then has such a geschmack and has a reason and understands why we do what we do, it gives a tam, it gives a reason and makes Shabbos actually taste good. Tonight's subject is a person who's mekabel Shabbos early. Shteitach in halacha, a person gives mekabel Shabbos early and makes kiddush while it's still daylight, and eats a seuda while it's still daylight. Are they yoitza the inyan of gimel seudas b'Shabbos? Does the din of Tosefes Shabbos, which a person is mekabel Shabbos early and gives Erev Shabbos, Friday, a din of Shabbos Kodesh, does that transform Friday into Leil Shabbos? If there's a din of Seudas Leil Shabbos that you have to eat on Friday night, you have to eat the Leil Shabbos, and you're eating on Yom Shishi, which became Shabbos, was a person yoitze mitzvahs gimel seudas? That's the question. And if you do have to be mamshech your seuda into the evening mamish, what is it that a person has to eat at that time? Does a person have to dafke eat? You have to make sure that if you started the seuda before Shabbos, meaning you started on Shabbos, but you started on Friday, being mekabel Shabbos early, that you have to now eat a kazayas after Tzeisa Kechavim, a kazayas of challah, lechem. Is it enough to have cake? Can a person have fruits or stomach dessert and then consider that as the Shabbos' seuda? Or does, like we say, a person has to have mamish broit, he has to have lechem. So, we begin with the source of eating a seuda on Shabbos, on Erev Shabbos. The Gemara begins, and it's point number 1. Arvei Psachim, this is the 10th parak in Psachim. Arvei Psachim samach lemincha lo yoichol adam ad shetechshach. And if you have your handout on page number, there should be page number 1, it says 198, because that's part of the Gemara in Psachim. Arvei Psachim samach lemincha lo yoichol adam ad shetechshach. On Erev Pesach, the halach is a person shouldn't eat until it becomes nighttime. Taisvis divrei maschol ad shetechshach points out that the nusach in the Mishnah, the lashon of the Mishnah ad shetechshach, is unique. When it talks about a person staying hungry on Erev Shabbos, where it's a mitzvah. I know some people like toameho. That's a whole nother sugya. To eat too much on Erev Shabbos, ad kedei that when a person comes to Shabbos Kodesh, lost his appetite, is certainly way too much. person has to be careful that when he comes into Shabbos, as I state in the Gemara, a person should come into Shabbos kishuhu tava, when a person is hungry to eat. State in the Gemara that regarding Shabbos, a person should be hungry, but it doesn't mention ad shetechshach. It doesn't mention until the evening. And Tosfos wants to understand why by Erev Pesach does it say that a person samach lemincha lo yochel adam ad shetechshach, and by Shabbos and Yom Tov doesn't have that nusach. And the lashon of Tosfos is as follows: V'oimer ri mikorbil. Degabe matzah davken bein ad shetechshach. By matzah, a person has a mitzvah to eat matzah dafka at night. Be'erev toichlu matzahs. You're not allowed to eat matzah before nighttime. Be'erev toichlu matzahs. Kedechsiv v'oso es habosar b'layla hazeh u'matzahs u'moyer iskish lePesach. It's meant to eat at night. Avol, says Tosfos, Su'uda Shabbos v'yomim toivim Motzi acholahu miba'oid yaim. I want to pay attention with you to the words. Seuda Shabbos v'yamim tovim. A seuda of Shabbos and Yom Tov. A person can eat miba'oid yaim. Kiram piyasa shachar mispal el adam shel Shabbos be'erev Shabbos. A person can daven on Erev Shabbos, the davening of Shabbos. V'oimer kiddush hayoim b'oid yoim. And he makes kiddush, and the lashon of Tosfos is Sudas Shabbos motzi loicho b'oid yoim. He can eat Sudas Shabbos by day. It's pretty clear from Tosfos that he's allowed to be Mekayim. He can start the Su'udah of Shabbos during the day. As I state in Tosfos, if you turn to the next page, please, and you see the Rosh in Psakim, the Rosh over here in the 10th parak, mamish, the same place that Tosfos is, quotes the same kasha, but there's a slight nuance, a very slight difference. Look how the Rosh says. The Rosh says in letter Beis, why does it use the lashon of ad shetechshach? Like it says it by Shabbos and Yom Tov. Even though you can start Shabbos during the weekday, and you can eat before it becomes dark. You cannot do that by Pesach. What's the difference between the way the Rosh says the heter and Tosfos says the heter? To the normal eye, it doesn't sound like there's any difference. It doesn't look like there's any difference. Aber if you're medayik, and I'd like to say, growing up in Eretz Yisrael, learning in the Mir Yeshiva, with the mirrors alamo gezogzes and a meshugeh ofen loshen, they always made sure to be medaktik exactly how it says. Taka, the nusach of the Rosh and the nusach of Tosfos is slightly different. Tosfos uses the lashon, you can eat Su'uda Shabbos. The Kiddush is ma'afsher, allows that miken esen as Su'uda from Shabbos. In the Rosh, those words it doesn't say. In the Rosh it says, you made Kiddush motzi le'echol. Hare, we know that you can't eat until you make Kiddush. Just because you make Kiddush doesn't mean that you're eating a Su'udah. V'horaya, Shabbos in the morning. When a person davens and he finishes tefillah, and then I macht Kiddush, ot a bissel a herring, macht alachayim. Is that Su'udah Shabbos? Absolutely not. What is it? It's eating something that a person, around Shabbos, you can't fast. On Shabbos, a person, it's an oinig Shabbos, that a person is being ma'aneg the Shabbos, and it's taka mitzvah of oinig Shabbos. Or it's not a Suda Shabbos. What did the Kiddush do? The Kiddush was ma'afsher. The Kiddush allowed, as Muzoker and Essen, that you should be able to eat. But the Kiddush didn't create a Su'uda, because a person wasn't koiveya Su'uda through the Kiddush. Thus, haste, it should be very clear that Kiddush has two roles, so to speak. With one, first of all, Kiddush allows us to eat, and if a person chooses to be koiveya, the Seuda, so then not only is he eating, he's eating a Seuda Shabbos. As we see on Shabbos in the morning, after davening, you can make Kiddush and you can eat, but it doesn't mean you're eating Seuda Shabbos. The Lashon of the Rosh that says a person can make Kiddush and can therefore do what? In the Tosfos it says he's eating Seuda Shabbos, if you look at the Lashon of Tosfos. In the Lashon of the Rosh, who had the same Shakla V'Tarya, said, Ve'yochol lo'hoisav min ha'choil ala kodesh ve'le'echol kodem shetechshach. I can essen. He can eat. This is l'chayra smach to the Chiddush that the Bach and quoting the Maral in our next page tells us. But let's go to page number 3 in this handout. It's still in the halachas of Pesach where these halachas are written. Here, Kach Kosav Arosh, V'Kach Kosav Mordechai, we're quoting from the Bach. V'Rabbeinu Mikobel. He says, V'Kavanosam, 3 lines from the top. V'Kavanosam. V'Kavanosam, de hascholas haseuda de Pesach eina balayla. The beginning of a Seuda on Pesach is only by night. Avo gemar Seuda av b'shar arvei Shabbos v'yamim toivim tzorech shetiyeh balayla. The finishing off of the Seuda has to be at night. State in the Bach. State in the Bach that you're allowed to, what Tosfos and the Rosh said, that when a person is Mekabel Shabbos early, and he starts his Seuda Meba'oid Yoim, says the Bach, the intention of Tosfos is nor unzufangen, which means only to start. Aber endigen, finishing, you have to finish at nighttime. Do iker chiyuv Seuda v'tzorech tzorech shetehei balayla. The Gemar Seuda has to be at night. Do iker chiyuv shel Seuda midrasha de tlos hayoyv. The drasha comes from the fact that it says, the Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Yud Zayin, it says 3 times, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Hayoim, you should eat. Ve'im kein eino yoytze chiyuv seuda ela im kein ochlo balayla. Straight in Bach, you're not yoytze Iker Seuda unless you eat in the evening. And if you're going to stop eating before it became Leil Shabbos, Vadai lo yotza yedei chayvasai. Wow, what a lashon. Steiten Bach, Vadai lo yotza yedei chayvasai. V'lo domi le kiddush sheyachol lahaisef mechayil ala kodesh. It's not like kiddush. Kedamin mepek shlias hashachar. The shani kiddush, the yachol, the kiddush, the koy ala Shabbos. You want to add kiddusha? B'vakasha. You want to add kedusha mach from a weekday. You want to make a Yom Shishi, a Friday, holy. There's an Inyan of kedusha Shabbos, you can do it. Aber mekamachen from Yom Laila. You want to turn night into day. You want to turn day into night. Only the Eibishter can do that. When you're Mekabel Shabbos, it's Friday that has Kedusha Shabbos. And since the Seudah says the Bach is supposed to be Leil Shabbos, how do I know it's supposed to be Leil Shabbos? Because the Gemara over there on Shabbos Kuf Yud Zayin says that how many meals are you supposed to eat? Machlokes between the Rabbanon and Reb Chidkiah. Rabbanon say 3. Reb Chidkiah says 4, because it says 3 times Hayoim, Hayoim, Hayoim. Chidkiah says 3 times by day, but 1 at night. And the Rabbanon say no, the 1 Hayoim goes at night. Aber Shmam, you know that everybody holds that you have to have Laila. Means to say that you have to eat Banach. So if so, says the Bach, what does it help? Was helft mir that you were Mekadesh Shabbos early? Gewaldig. Has gemach that Yom Hashishi vayhi erev vayhi voiker Yom Hashishi vaychul hashamayim. So you made Yom Hashishi into Vaychul HaShamayim, you made it into Shabbos. You were Meisif from the Kedusha of Shabbos onto the Chol. But you didn't make it into nighttime. It's day that now has Kedusha Shabbos. So if it's day that has Kedusha Shabbos, it's Nishkei Nacht. If it's Nishkei Nacht, then the Seudah is supposed to be a Seudah Laila, then how will you Yaitza? The Shani Kiddush, the Koyala Shabbos, Kiddush is making Shabbos. V'yochel lo hoisav al Kedushasai. Masha'enkin ba'achila the tzorch shei ba'layla al kol ponim. It has to be at night. V'kach kosav ha'maral mi Prague. V'dvor of nechoinim, and he's right, says the Bach. U'b'tshuvas adeshem posuk oi da'af ascholas has Seder Enekim Balayla Mamish, regarding the Seder that also has to even start at nighttime. Shabbos you can start by day. I have over here, it's not quoted in the pamphlet, but I have the Maharal. The Maharal says, Takan, this is his Loshen. It brings down what it says in the Rashbam, that you can eat before the nighttime because you're Ma'asav Mechayel al HaKodesh. V'tzorech iyan, the Suda Shabbos tzorech liyas balayla, the tzorech lecho Suda achas balayla. V'im kein eich yoichel bayoim koidem alayla. How can he go ahead and eat at the daytime? Does Heisa Zogan Azoi, the Maharal and the Bach are learning that the mitzvah of Shabbos, Achila Seudah Shabbos, is not just to eat 3 Seudas on Shabbos, but rather it's a mitzvah to eat dinner, breakfast, and then or lunch, and then nachamol, another dinner on Shabbos. Meaning like this, and here Lomer Frashtein Abissal Alamdis. We'll soon see this as well inside. If the gather of Achila Shabbos is eat 3 Seudas on Shabbos, Shabbos should be Mekudesh Medrai Seudas. And then the Chachamim decided that when should it be? By night, by day, and then Nachamo later on in the afternoon. One could argue if it's a din in Shabbos, so maybe because I made it already Shabbos, so then already I'm eating Seudah Shabbos. If a person understands that the chiyuv of Gimel Seudas is a din in Shabbos, 3 Seudas on Shabbos. When? Chazal told us when. But the Yisoid HaChiyuv is a chiyuv of Achila Seudah Shabbos. So somebody can argue and say, it's not a din at night, it's a din Achila Shabbos, Yichashen Gemach Shabbos. We'll soon see a Losha, maybe the Zerua, Sa'andra Mefarshim, Magen Avram, that hold that as long as you're eating Seudah Shabbos on Shabbos is Genuk. Or in the Maharal and the way we see in the Bach state, Klor Nishtazoi. It's not just a din of 3 Seudas of Shabbos. It's a din of Achilas Laila, Achilas Yoim, Nachamal Achilas Yoim, which means there's an inyan of eating a night meal, what we call here in America dinner. Nachtmol. Man darf nicht essen a Shabbos Seuda. Man darf essen a Nachtmol. You have to have an evening Seuda. Das steht. So was helps perhaps is Shabbos, but Shabbos is still during the day. You're missing the Nachtmol. You're missing the nighttime Seuda. That's what the Maral screams. You have to have not just 3 Seudas of Shabbos. You have to have 3, specifically a dinner, a lunch, mit noch einmal another dinner, so to speak, noch mittag. So you're not yaitza. That is Shitas Habach. So the Bach understood the way he farteich Tosfos. The Bach had gesagt that even Tosfos and even the Rosh that allowed us to eat Seudas Shabbos when you're Makabel Tosfos Shabbos early, only allowed us to start the Seuda, but you have to make sure to finish in the evening. Azoy steht in Bach. Comes along the Magen Avram, next page, Rabbi Say. Comes along the Magen Avram in Hilchas Shabbos. And he writes, and you can see where it's the gray area that is on the side. He brings down, Kosov Bishlo, B'Shem Sifrei Chasidim. Demikol Mokam Tzorach Lechol Kezayis Balaylo. Here he take a focus on what it is that you have to eat. Kedei Lekayim Gimel Suda Shabbos. Azoy state in Sefer HaCharedim. V'kach Kosov Abach Simen Tofayim Beis B'Shem Aram Miprag. That's what they say. And now comes a big line from the Magen Avram. Avol b'Tosfos v'Rosh mashma de'yochol ligmar hasuda miba'oid yoim. The Magen Avram had the places. He had the shoulders to say, I read Tosfos differently. Afilu the Bachat gelernt to Pshat and Tosfos, that Tosfos only meant you could start. Ich verstehe anders, says the Magen Avram. I understand differently. There's a heter to eat the entire Seuda. According to the Magen Avram, Tosfos says, Mekan Essen Suda Shabbos. If Tosfos says Essen Suda Shabbos, my opinion, says the Magen Avram, means you can eat it and finish it. Zogter, the lig yochol ligma, v'kach kosev atrumas adeshen mefurish. And you know why? Rosh right the Bach. The Bach says b'shem the Maral, v'amadav esem banacht. Zog the Magen Avram. If a person davens Leil Shabbos on Friday, and a zog choin Ma'ariv, Oy bazoy, says the Magen Avram, da achar plag mincha choshvin on Lailo. Ido shoin Lailo. Das gemacht von Tag, by making the Zman Shabbos, you made it nighttime. So and as a dinner, you just daven Ma'ariv. Let's ask ourselves a question. A raya to the Magen Avram l'chayra. In 2 weeks, not this Shabbos, but in a week from this Shabbos, it's going to be Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh of. The Olam who's going to make early Shabbos is going to go home and going to eat. And then they're going to bench. And they're going to have to say Ritzei. Are they going to say Ya'aleh V'Yavai? What do you say, Reb Chaim? Avada, yeah. Why? They already said Ya'aleh V'Yavai by Ma'ariv. So it won't be the first time they say Ya'aleh V'Yavai. They already said Ya'aleh V'Yavai by Ma'ariv. So Stoch Shoin Shabbos. You davened already Ma'ariv. L'cha'ira, you made it nighttime. The fact that Mezok L'cha'ira, the fact that you said Ya'azoy Meinech, the fact that you said Ya'aleh V'Yavai by Ma'ariv, and now you say even if you're benching during the day, Abes Shoin Leil Shabbos. Aye, but it's not. The teretz is it's after mincha already. It's after that time, not mincha gedoyle. It's after mincha. It's after plaga mincha. So therefore, it's after a time where, according to some shitas, it's already considered medavan shemai. Here in Shiners, We could daven mincha at 9:30 at night, or B'star Mensch was davening Ma'ariv 7 o'clock in the afternoon. Why? Because they already daven mincha beforehand, and they already daven Ma'ariv already now, because it's man plug, like Shittas Rabbi Yehuda. As I gave us the pshari, like Yeneshita, once you come to plug on mincha, that's already the end of the mincha time. And then you can start Ma'ariv, but you have to have a certain consistency, state in Chazal. Daven mincha early, then you're davening Ma'ariv, Dochshen Gevar and Laila. This is the time of the Magen Avram. So in as much as the Maharal and the Bach brings down that you're missing the component of Laila, so therefore even though you're Mekabel Shabbos early, or it has to be a Nachtmol, Tanet the Magen Avram sees a Nachtmol. It is a night meal. It's a night meal because thanks to the fact, like he says, you're after Plag HaMincha Chashvin on Laila. He quote the Ohr Zarua, next page. Shteit Ohr Zarua, kleine Shtikele. Umiu, he says, Ledivrei Reb Shimshon Tois Shabbos Yom Kippurim Derais Hilkoch Sha'osi Shaper Shemispalel Shal Shabbos Be'erev Shabbos V'osi Navi Shaper Shonu Mekadshim Ala Kois V'oichlem Su'uda Shabbos Meba'oid Yoim Shteit Ohr Zarua Mekan Essen, you can eat Su'udas Shabbos Meba'oid Yoim Farvos since he was mekabelit, havel Shabbos midaraisa. He doesn't say the svara of the fact that it's Laila. He says because it's Shabbos Kodesh. He stresses Shabbos, not like the Magen Avram. Vos geito the machloikis. Why is he only stressing Shabbos? Kemen zogen, like we mentioned earlier. Because it's taka machloikis, what is the gather of the Gimel Seudas? Are the Gimel Seudas of Shabbos, just Chazal said, have them at this time, or are they specifically a Seud of Leil Shabbos? Either way, like the Magen Avram, you can learn it's already Leil Shabbos, and if you hold it's a din of Gimel Seudas b'Shabbos, it's Zichar Shabbos, Tainas Dors, or why? Because Midaraisa, Shon Shabbos. One of the quotes of the Magen Avram was from the Trumas Hadeshen. Here we have, the next quote is the Trumas Hadeshen. Let's see it inside. Fascinating shtikala from the Trumas Hadeshen. What again, where it's the gray area over here in your handout. Gam shamati b'yeshiva. I heard in yeshiva. Mipi echad ma'gedolim. Sheshama v'kibel kibyemed kadmoinim hispalu arvis v'kora shema be'erev Shabbos ba'oid hayoim gadol. They used to daven early. Kol kach, they daven so early. Shehoya harav ha'ir shehoya ma'hagedolim ha'kadmoinim hu v'chol tuvei hakahal. Und the ganze alle scheine Yidden, all of the nice Jews, imay holchu letahel, they would go for a spazier. Maybe this was in one of those northern cities, like in Manchester, or up in where it would become Shabbos at 10, 11 o'clock at night. It wouldn't become dark. It wouldn't become dark until way, like now. 10:30 at night is when the Shkia is. Nebuch for them when it comes to Shavasar B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av. You're fasting, you don't finish till in Copenhagen, in Denmark, in these places, it doesn't become night until 11 o'clock at night. So he says that they write, the with the Rav, Mekabel Shabbos Gevein early. They ate Suda Shabbos, and after Suda Shabbos, Holchu L'Ta'el Achar Chila Suda Al Svas Hanor Dinui, they would get home still while there was still sunshine outside. Means that Klor, you see that they were finished. Trumas Hadeshen State, they finished the Suda already. They already had finished the Suda while it was still Gam Nimtza Kosum Shemech Megdoilim Shohil Ispal Avis V'Likrosh Ma'Boidi Am Godom Ma'oid L'Tzorech Sudas Nesuin. So you see, this is what the Magen Avram said, that there was a Kabbalah that those, when it was necessary, by day. Mitzad Sheni, like the Bach quoted, you have the Sefer Hasidim. which the Shlotaka quotes, Misha ochel me'ba'od yom b'yom ha'gadol be'erev Shabbos. You're going to take if shiotza Beis HaKnesses. V'lo niru gimel koichavim. If a person ate beef and didn't see 3 stars, Kiven sheba ba'od yom gamar sudasoi yoichal la'achar tzeisa koichavim k'dei shir shivarech birchas hamozain. Steht in Sefer Chasidim, if you finished early, you have to take tzorach shivarech birchas hamozain. You have to take after tzeisa koichavim ashtika lechala shir shivarech birchas hamozain k'dei lekayim mitzvahs gimel seudos b'Shabbos ki echiyale legimel seudos mashe ba'od yom ochol. How can you go ahead and be yoytze if you ate it during the daytime? This echoes the words of the Maharal in the Bach, that as long as it's not nighttime, hast nicht gegessen kein Nachtmahl, bist nicht yoytze gewesen. And if you look at the next page, b'shem the shlo, shnei luchas habris, bring there. The Zeloshen Sefer Charedim, it brings it as a psak. Mi shochem eboid yoim kigon shiyotz bebeis haknesses v'loy nirish shirachovim kivon shebeboid yoim garmusudos. So you have to go and eat afterwards, right? Mamish verbatim. Das heißt that gepaskent azoy. Nu is was omir ton. So what should we do? If you look, we'll skip ahead for a minute and go to the Mishnah Brura on this halacha. Second to the last page on the Sefer. Letter Reish Samach Zayin Ois Hey. When a person comes davens Shabbos, v'lechol miyad. Hatam. Says the Mishnah Brura. Kivan the Kibul of Shabbos. Once a person was Mekabel Shabbos, v'hoisiv mechoil el HaKodesh. Nechshav kishabbos, it's already considered Shabbos, le'inyan zeh yochel lekadish, v'lechol miyad. Because he made Kiddush, and as we said earlier, Kiddush helps twofold. Kiddush is mater le'echol, so you already made Kiddush meken shein esen, meaning even if you don't make Suda Shabbos, but the restriction of eating has been lifted al yedei Kiddush. So Gzokter Azoy, Kivon the Yochel Akadish v'Yochel Mayad, v'Yochel Ligmar Sudasei b'Yoid Yoim. So therefore, a person, according to one pshat, should already make Kiddush and already start his Suda, and if he need be, he can even finish. Aber v'Yesh Cholkim, the Shitas, the Sifrei Chasidim, the Bach, the Maral, v'Soivrim, she is Zoher, Limshach Sudasei Ad Alayla. Let's be clear. The Bach and the Maharal had no problem with the person starting a Su'udah, according to them, on Erev Shabbos, as long as the person was mamshech the Su'udah and made sure that on Leil Shabbos mamish noch gegessen. He made that a person should be careful that he should still eat and be mamshech his Su'udah, v'yoichel kezayis balayla. The timer. And what's the reason? The kivan da gimel sudas yafinu madach sev achlu hayoim ki Shabbos hayoim laHashem beinon shekaim oisem beyoim Shabbos atzmai. You have to be mekayim on Yom Shabbos, meaning this is a reason that, and this is brought down. Tosfos Shabbos is loy nechshav Shabbos. One of the reasons that it's brought down is that Tosfos Shabbos, adding to Shabbos, is adding to Shabbos, but it's not Shabbos itself. That's the svara, not because of Leil Shabbos, but even Mitzad Shabbos Atzmai failed. So, but according to that, if a person is taka starting the Seudah by Tosfos Shabbos, which is mutter, but it's like eating Kiddush, zokt the Mishnah Brura, according to this opinion. Meaning to say, you're eating and you're allowed to eat. The lechatchila nochain lochush ledivreihem. Fear tois the Mishnah Brura. It is the correct thing to be lochush, to make sure that you should eat a kezayis after Tzeis HaKoichavim. Now, does that mean that a person has to eat dafka bread, dafka challah? If you go back one page, the Sefer Kol Yaakov brings down Hamogen Avram, B'Simen Reish Samach Zayin, Hey vi de kosav ashlo b'sefer charedim de misha chesud leil Shabbos b'toisef Shabbos makom tzorch lechol kezayis balayla. We said you have to eat a kezayis v'hu b'betaz v'lechayre tamua amai davka kezayis pas v'loi kol ha'oinig b'Shabbos dogum u'bosa v'chol matav. If the Indian is to make sure that a person ate a seudah, interesting. He tainas that any basar v'dogim, he should be mekai in the din of oineg Shabbos. The truth is that cake, pas haba bekisna, when a person's koiveya seuda on cake, the halacha according to many mefarshim is you have to wash. The only reason we don't wash on cake, pas haba, is because we end up eating it on the fly. We're not eating as a chelik of the Suda. But when a person eats it as a chelik of a Suda, a person can be kaiveya Suda on it and can bench. So lama trachten, Rabbi say, and this is l'chayr and eitzah nechayna. If a person taka makes early Shabbos, and a person, the kinderlach, he doesn't want to wait, they made kiddush, we want to eat already. B'vakasha, you can eat. Gesundheit heit. If you have dessert, cake, which is a chelek of your seudah. Since it's a chelek of your seudah, so it has a din of a kviyas seudah. So you don't dafka have to have a challah. You don't have to dafka have a kazayis of challah in order to make sure that your seudah Shabbos was yoitza on Leil Shabbos, that you had your nachtmol at nighttime because you had bread, because you had challah. I feel on them. Heyois that this is a chelik of the Suda, and you're eating this pas haba bekis, and you're having the dessert. Could be an apple strudel. It could be the cookies. It could be whatever you want. Mitabisala ice cream, oichet if you want. Whatever it is, and you eat the mezainas as a chelik of the Suda, out the kviyas of Suda of Shabbos. But then come oichet yoitzazad. Al koponim ha'oila, what comes out is that although avada, there are opinions, as we saw, the Mogen Avram, and there's others, yesham yal lismach, that if a person ate Seudah Shabbos during the daytime, like we saw one opinion of the Mogen Avram, l'chayra, he davened early, Seshan Gevein Shabbos, some opinion says it's already considered Laila. Other opinions say that it's already the din of Seudah Shabbos because it has Kedusha Shabbos. Aber, it's not all the opinions. And Adavar totally b'machloikis. In order to be Yaitza, all opinions, Belishum Shaila, Kedai, that Balayla, after Tzeis HaKoichavim, once the Zman, which anyway, a person would have to say Shema. Because a person davened early, he'd have to say now Shema over again. Mit the Shema, have a piece of cake. With the Shema, have a shtikal challah. Make sure that at Achar Tzeis HaKoichavim, according to those shitas, the Bach, the Maral, the Chule, the Shlo, Sefer Chasidim, you should be Yoitze Seudas Shabbos as a nachtmol, as a supper, as a dinner. This way you be Yoitze ala shitas. Shekayach.